Είμαστε για 8η συνεχή χρονιά Platinum Sponsor, όπου κάθε χρόνο θέλουμε να στηρίζουμε αυτόν τον θεσμό που έχει θέσει το CIM. Σαν όμιλος φέτος έχουμε δουλέψει για να κάνουμε εσωτερικά εκπαιδεύσεις στο ανθρώπινο μας δυναμικό. Οπότε έρχονται διάφορα μέσα στη χρονιά μαζί με το CIM. Το καινούριο βασικά είναι ότι δώσαμε πολύ βάση στο ανθρώπινο μας δυναμικό, οπότε φέτος θα γίνουν διάφορες εκπαιδεύσεις μαζί με το CIM και θα δοθούν και κάποιες υποτροφίες.
Είμαστε πολύ χαρούμενοι που είμαστε εδώ για 16η χρονιά. Πραγματικά είναι τεράστια επιτυχία το γεγονός ότι διοργανώνουμε ένα γεγονός τέτοιας εμβέλειας και ειδικότερα Σάββατο πρωί. Έρχεται πάρα πολλοί κόσμος να ακούσει, να μοιραστεί, να ανταλλάξει απόψεις για επίκαιρα θέματα. Έχουμε μια τετράδα πολύ αξιόλογων ομιλητών από το εξωτερικό, από τα κορυφαία business school της Βρετανίας, και γι' αυτό στο CIM θα συνεχίσουμε να ενδυναμώνουμε αυτό το event, προσφέρει κάτι διαφορετικό στην Κυπριακή επιχειρηματική κοινότητα.
Είναι αυτές οι εκδηλώσεις εξαιρετικές, γιατί ακριβώς δίνουν ένα βήμα να ανταλλαγούν απόψεις, να γίνει προβληματισμός για θέματα της οικονομίας και της οικονομικής πορείας, αλλά και της ενθάρρυνσης των επιχειρήσεων μας να προχωρούμε με επενδύσεις και ανάπτυξη. Επομένως, η κυβέρνηση στέκει δίπλα και ενισχύει πάντα και ενθαρρύνει αυτές τις εκδηλώσεις.
One of the things that my research that I'm discussing today highlights is how the advantages of index funds that we have all sort of cited over the past few decades, their large diversified portfolios, their low expense ratios, low fees for clients, they actually create a problem in the sense that index funds have little sort of capability or incentive to monitor and track and evaluate individual companies within their portfolios. And this can have some unintended consequences potentially. We find that index ownership tends to encourage and exacerbate managerial tendencies towards short-termism, which could have consequences for R&D strategy and how long-term oriented versus short-term oriented R&D strategy can be. I come from London Business School. I've had colleagues present here in the past. They all talk about how wonderful the conference is, about how friendly everybody is, how smart everybody is. So I just felt honored to be here to get to join and experience it for myself.
We did the study about 3 years ago on 20 leaders from very different organisational contexts in the UK. And what was really strong about that research was the consistency of themes. And there were two main themes really. One was leaders said, look, I'm accountable, but I'm not in control. And I'm having to deal with a plurality of people. I'm having to really work with very different interest groups to try and make things happen. So that was one theme. The second theme was their view of leadership had changed. It wasn't about influencing people per se, but it was about influencing the context. So how do you nudge a context as a leader so that you're not just doing all the work yourself, you're releasing energy? So they talked to us about leaders being a bit like farmers. Farmers don't grow crops, but they create the conditions for crops to grow. So that identification of the challenge of systems leadership rather than individual leadership. So what they need to get better at is understanding and being more curious about the context that they're a part of. Really deeply understanding different interest groups, what people need, what work means for people. And that was a very new leadership skill. They also need to get better at learning in public. In other words, trying to manage the fact that they don't know everything. So those are just some of the themes. The summit is a great opportunity. It's the first time I've been to Cyprus. Very warm welcome. Looking forward to listening to other colleagues talk about their knowledge. But this seems a wonderful way of convening a conversation that wouldn't normally happen in Cyprus, right? Bringing these people together, on a Saturday morning, for goodness sake, so there must be a lot of commitment there to learn together. And I think unless we have these collaborative events where you get true knowledge sharing, we're not really going to be able to tackle the problems that face us today. So I think it's great.
So what an organisation chooses to do, its strategy, depends a lot on who it takes itself to be, its identity. So these two things, what we do and who we are tightly interconnected. And then when things change in turbulent sorts of environments, we often have to think about doing something different as an organisation, to take a different strategy. So that means we often have to think about, well, who might we need to become to actually do that. So in turbulent conditions, it's not just about thinking what new things do we need to do, but actually looking at questions about who might we need to become. And this is much harder often for us as organisations because identity is who we are is more implicit, and so it's a deeper sort of question and one we don't tend to look at as much as we do in terms of strategy. But the takeaway is that in turbulent conditions these two things of identity and strategy are interconnected, and therefore in turbulent conditions we have to look at both. And so I'm going to be talking about identity and strategy, and particularly strategy and in a turbulent sorts of contexts, and so I'm delighted to be here at the CIM Summit in 2024 and to be part of this wonderful event. And thank you for the invitation.
So what's interesting about AI is that most previous technologies were developed to do something specific, so to take one specific job, whereas the AI has been developed without any particular purpose in mind, so it disrupts many jobs. Also interestingly, it's mostly white-collar jobs, so services industry, rather than those doing building or something like that. So I don't think it will actually replace many jobs entirely, but I think lots of people working in lots of jobs are going to have to learn to work with AI. So it's going to be part of lots and lots of people's jobs. I think those who use AI are going to be so much more productive, so much more effective, that they're going to replace those who don't use AI. So it's really critical that everyone working in any kind of knowledge sector starts working with AI and realizes the benefits of that. It's great to be at the CIM Summit speaking about artificial intelligence and what it might mean for the future of work.